And it is 10:31, so I'm going to roll straight into the team guide. I know that there are other great sessions happening right now, so if y'all pop in and out, we won't even know. So with this, again, I know I got a chance to introduce myself earlier, but for those that are tuning in for the second half, which is the educator resources. So how can you as an event partner, or maybe you're tuning in as both an event partner, one hat, and then you have the other hat as a coach slash teacher. This one's for that side of it. And so I was an event partner for many years, and I got an opportunity to be an ambassador for the robotics community. Huge shout out to all my other event partners and coaches in the Houston and South Houston, Texas area who it's a thriving community down there. And the reason it was thriving was not because we had one or two great coaches or one or two great event partners, but we constantly were helping the new ones out so that they could become great coaches and event partners as well. So I am excited to do that. We have the same folks on. If you want, those that are watching the chat, if y'all want to pop on and introduce yourselves real quick, just give a hi, like Corey and Ben, if y'all are still up there. There's Corey. Corey is the regional support manager, and Ben's out there somewhere, but he may be hiding behind his camera still. And thank you to Corey and Ben for watching the chat. If you do have questions, please put it in the chat. And then as I go through this, I'll be looking for those questions and answering them as best we can. So again, for those that weren't tuned into the EP guide, I am an engineer turned education turned regional support manager and director of regional operations for the foundation, and loving every day of it. So that's me. I'll be leading this one. You just heard from Lisa, who is the, oh, we skipped. That wasn't intentional, Lisa. I promise I wanted to give you your fair, your fair up, and there it is. Oh, by the way, my favorite volunteering role is MC. I've been MCing at Worlds for 8 years now, and at all my events locally, I love it. So I thought that'd be a fun bio fact to add. And Lisa, if you
yes,
would like
my favorite is being a judge, and really just because I get to hang out with the students and learn about all their awesome robot designs, and they're always so excited and positive. So if I ever get to choose, that's my role I get to. I'm not good at standing in front of a whole crowd, so.
You're doing a great job sitting in front of a whole crowd, though, virtually. So keep it up. We share those because if you have questions specific to anything like that or our bios, feel free. We're open books. So as this goes through, feel free to put those in the chat. So robotics community. So you're an event partner. Why would I be interested in sharing educational resources? So let me just give you some examples of why. Well, first off, most event partners are coaches. So, you wear multiple hats throughout the year. And as an event partner, you are also a leader in the community. You can mentor new coaches. If you're like me, or if you had the experiences I did, when you have events that are very large events, you'll have new coaches come up to you and ask for help. And you can single-handedly, as that event partner, influence the team growth. Now, that's a two-edged sword. While you're growing your teams in the area, you're going to have to be able to have more events so those teams can compete, and you might even get more competition. But like everywhere else, iron sharpens iron. The more teams you have, the better your teams that you coach will get. So I know that just in the last 5 years, we've doubled, if not tripled, the number of teams in the Houston area because the event partners are going out, not the REC Foundation, but the event partners are going out and really recruiting new coaches and helping them by holding their hands. Be that mentor. It's great. Another reason why I'm excited and encouraged that you're here listening to this webcast is that the more and the stronger coaches you have, they create more teams, they create more events, and if you want to get a little selfish, you create more qualification spots to Worlds. Yeah, the way that the qualification spots, it's all based on the number of teams in your region versus the number of teams in the rest of the world. So the more teams in your region, the more spots that go to that region. And also, if you have more teams in your area and you're trying to convince an administrator to maybe fund your robotics program or have stipends like the football coach gets, it's much easier when you can point at all the districts around you that have robotics programs, just like all the districts around you probably have athletics programs. When you're dealing with local administration, growing your community helps. And that's why the REC Foundation created a team guide so that you can do that with your surrounding community. As an EP, how can you help a coach? Well, that's where we wanted to intercede, and we wanted to share the things that you probably already know, but put them all on one slide. First off, in partnership with VEX and RoboMatter, there is over 65 hours of STEM labs. That's V5 STEM labs and IQ STEM labs. I'm trying to keep my hands in the screen so you can see this. I talk with my hands. So you've got both. You have a, what is that? Quick math, 130 hours plus of total STEM labs. That's a lot of hours you can offer to a school district that's thinking about bringing robotics to their curriculum, right? In school instead of just having after school. You also have the new release of VEX Code VR programming. These are resources that you can share right now. The other piece that we have are certifications. I know that we just talked about one that's coming out, the EP certification that's geared just for you as an event partner, but there's teacher certification, there's volunteer certifications that's coming out as well, like the judge certification or the head ref certification. So those exist as well. And then of course, there's all those team resources. Every year with VEX and the REC Foundation, there's a game design committee, which we call the GDC. For those of you that aren't acronym savvy, when you hear GDC, that's the game design committee. They meet all year long, and they come out with a game manual and information from that. There's the forums, there's the official Q&A, and honestly, to help you out, because as an event partner, there's nothing worse than being the bad guy or the bad girl. The code of conduct and the student-centered guide make the REC Foundation the governing body instead of you. So whenever you do have that parent or coach that gets a little excited over a call that a head ref makes, we now have a code of conduct and student-centered guide at your disposal. And then of course there's the design notebook that the judges get to see, and really that's the design process. That's ultimately the workforce development. We're not going to have competitive roboticists that are driving around in their 30s. Heck, maybe we will. I've seen Big Hero 6. It might happen, but in that hypothetical case, it doesn't happen. We have the design notebook. That's the true thing that you walk around with after the fact. I mean, here's mine on my desk right here. I carry it with me everywhere, courtesy of Project Lead the Way. Next thing I want to share with you, and the impetus of this webcast, is the team guide. So what is the team guide, or better yet, why does it exist? So similar to the event partner guide, there were way too many documents out there. When I was trying to get a new coach started up, I'd bring her over and I'd start showing her, oh, here's this document for this part of the year, and here's this document for this part of the year, and here's another document for when you go to an event. Oh, and here's the document for when you actually qualify and get some awards, and here's the doc. So what, instead of having 14 different documents that you would have to pare down or slowly, spoon feed a new coach, there's just going to be one, and that's the team guide. There are some evergreen links in that document because these are the things that are going to change year after year. The early bird registration, the participant release form, the actual checklist. These things are things that you're going to want to be able to print out at any time. And honestly, as an event partner, these are the things that I included in the emails to my coaches. So whether you were an experienced coach or a brand new coach, these are the things you're going to have to be savvy on when you walk into my event, because these are the things that, well, that your team is going to be following whenever they are at the event. So how do I find the team guide? Well, first, as Lisa mentioned about 30 minutes ago, we keep all of our greatest materials on roboticseducation.org. If you haven't been there, you're missing out. You're probably a brand new event partner if you haven't been there, because all of our event partner resources and all of our team resources are sitting right here on this website. The way to get to it, there's two different ways really, and the one is typing in team space guide into our search bar. That search bar is great for finding a bunch of different things, but the team guide can be found easily by typing it in simply as team space guide. Another way to do it is if you go to the teams drop down menu and just hover over it for a second, you'll get that drop down menu, and selecting any of those three, the VEX IQ Challenge, the VEX Robotics Competition, or the VEX U, will get you there. What is it from there? You'll see a screen. If you scroll about halfway down, you'll get to see a wonderful picture of our CEO right there at the top. He has a welcome letter for you. And then you go down a little further and you'll see all these little pill buttons that you can select. Well, the one you want is sitting there at top and center. It's the team guide. There used to be a pill button there that said team resources. And when you clicked on it, there was about 14 to 16 different things you could select after that. Now it's all in one. So why did we build this, and what is it going to get you? It's everything a coach needs to compete. It's formatted chronologically as well. So that was the beautiful thing. Instead of you having to discern which one of those documents to give the team guide or that new coach first, it's boom, 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 as you get from July all the way to Worlds. So the first thing is we covered registration. Key to both the team registration at the beginning of the year, and then how do I register to your event? How do I register to that event partner's event? So the registration's in there, all the forms and policies and procedures. So all that paper pusher stuff is in there. Again, it's via links, so that way if there are changes, those stay evergreen. And then the fun stuff. How do I start a team? If you're a new coach, I will tell you that my experience, and this is having started, I come from a school district with 27 elementaries, 10 middle schools, and 5 high schools. And every year there'd be 1 to 3 new coaches just from natural turnover in a school district. And I'll tell you, every time the hardest thing was to find a new coach. There's an intimidation. I'm 41. I didn't get to do robotics when I was in elementary school. So many of the same folks that are currently elementary teachers didn't get to as well. So there's an intimidation factor to do robotics. So we want to help them get unintimidated, getting confident. And part of that is starting a team. After you've started the team, and by the way, starting a team isn't just going to the principal and asking. We walk that coach through it. We talk about what roles are there on the team. How do you select the people for that team? Right now, we're going to put a link to the team guide in the chat, so you can actually start looking at this right now. There were some links on the PowerPoint, but I'm guessing that you can't actually click on those and get anywhere. So we'll put it in the chat for you instead. But then once that team has been selected, how do you go through your first meeting? What does your first meeting look like? Is it an introduction? Is it looking at this year's game unveil videos? Is it starting the engineering design process? Well, yes, yes, and yes, but we'll help you by showing you in the team guide what the best practices is. And then eventually in what I'll call the 5th stage of the team guide, it's the attending the event stage. This is where we finally get to the exciting part of the year, where they have hopefully gone through the design process, started with the HeroBot, tried a few permutations on that, tested engineering design. They finally get to go and really test it, put the wheels on the mat. So we walk them through what's the safety expectations, what are the event expectations. If you're not a NASCAR person, you might not know what a pit is. You might not know that a pit stop is that when they come into the building and that event partner or that registration volunteer says, oh, and your pits are over there. Honestly, most of our coaches would say, cool, what is a pit, right? So this is going to explain those common acronyms, those common verbiages that we use, like the pits. And then it will also talk about what is the process when you walk in the door. Instead of looking like a deer in the headlights, as a coach, we go to registration first, we drop off our engineering notebooks there, they'll tell us where pits are and an inspection is, and then also what the expectations are for the tournament. All of it's in there, as well as a few bonus options. So we put in there information on the REC Foundation's grants. the REC Foundation online challenges, and a lot more, as well as things like social media. What do I put on my Instagram post so that everyone in the world can see that my Girl Power team just killed it at the 3rd annual insert name here event in Washington. So how can this be used? Let me just explain. From our standpoint, we created this as best as we possibly could for you. But we would love your feedback now, if you could post in the chat on how we could use. And then also, this is where I'll start getting to answer questions that you put in the chat. Lisa, you just did a shuffle around my head.
I didn't mean to do that. I meant to unmute. There's actually a great question. I wanted to share it with you. Does the team guide include a schedule of a typical event or season for teams?
Ooh, what a great question.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it did, and then it didn't. And the reason being, it's you have to think of the team guide as an unbiased international document. And if you are in the United States, yes, we typically have the same schedule in Texas as we do in Washington, as we do in Maine, as we do everywhere else. But again, I also know that in Texas, we can have events in January and not worry about getting snowed in. It's pretty easy to make that assumption. Whereas you might have a different schedule, even in 2 or 3 states north, maybe Kansas, where you've got a different weather pattern. But one of the biggest changes is when you go international. So our international teams, in particular China, they have all of their season in the summer. So what we do have in there is a typical season as far as what process or what stage you might be in throughout the year. So we actually have it broken down by stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and stage 5, but we don't attach that with months. So we don't have stage 1 is months August through October. Stage 2 is months, with some overlap, September through November. But one thing you could do is reach out to your regional support managers, or I'd push back on the event partners. This is where really you are the experts in your region, and you're even experts in your sub-region, that local community. So if you know that most of your events fall in December, set up a schedule and help those coaches out by saying, hey, you got that team guide. Stage 1, we typically do in August. And then by stage 2, which is getting that team together and having our first events, that happens in February. February would be way off. That happens in September, October. And so you can help them out that way. Did I get that one? I hope so.
Yeah, that was awesome.
A great question. And honestly, if the feedback is, we would rather have an example, maybe keep the months off there, but an example of what month 1, month 2 type thing, we'd be happy to add that. In fact, I'm going to put a note on there right now to add that. So great question, whomever anonymously posted that.
One thing I was going to add on to the STEM labs, just if you're a new teacher, I work a lot with Roll Matter on those with a couple of our other RECF staff. And one of the things that they realized is that as a teacher, I was a science teacher, engineering teacher, but there's really no certifications at that time. I think in the future this would be amazing, but a robotics certification, like how do you teach robotics? And so when developing these STEM labs, there's actually a teacher's portal on there, and that provides a lot of that pedagogical background in terms of how do you actually implement this with kids. It's not just about doing the activities, but it's about interacting with the students, like sort of how to do the guided inquiry type of lessons. And so all of that is available again for free through the STEM labs, which is again, amazing resource. So if you can't find it, please reach out to your RSM. But I definitely recommend if you're planning on teaching this, even if it's after school or in school, there are those, it's almost like that teacher guide that you get in the front of your book. And so it's a really great thing. And each of the certifications has a competition unit aspect of it. So it sort of goes along with that team guide in terms of, yes, you learn all about the IQ or V5 system, but what is this? How does this integrate with the competition aspect as well? So those are really great resources.
Yeah, and honestly, Lisa, 12 years of education, maybe this is a little selfish of me to highlight, but those STEM labs also have all you need for what you would do on your lesson planning. It's got the national standards. If you're in Texas, it has the TEKS already on there. It's got everything. It has the breakdown by time. It's ridiculously awesome. So my last few years of teaching, when those STEM labs were available, I literally copied and pasted. I don't know if I infringe on copyright laws. Maybe Robomatter will sue me now, but I literally copied and pasted those bad boys right into my lesson plans. And my principal was thinking I was hot molasses, which probably isn't a good, probably not how it goes. I did have a follow-up question about new coaches often don't have any idea of how many sessions or weeks to design or build or programming would take. And that's a fantastic question. So the one thing I always help a new coach with is I say the last thing you want is that 11th hour build session the night before your first event. And it happens all the time. I learned by the School of Hard Knocks. I was the coach that was up there till 11 p.m. the night before with my team, just so the doors would be open and the lights would stay on and I could lock up after them. But the reality is, Vex does a great job now with a hero bot. And honestly, if my rule of thumb with my students were, if you did not have a working robot 1 week before the competition, before the first competition is, you broke the thing down or shelved it, and then you went and built the hero bot because you knew it would work, and you'd have something for the drivers to practice at least 1 or 2 days before the event, and then the programmers to program. It is a great question. It is one of those ones that's kind of hard to define as to how long each thing takes. I would say that programming takes as long as you want to give it, just like building. So you have examples of Robot in 3 days. One of my favorite YouTube channels to watch right after the game unveil is Robot in 3 days, because you see some crazy great ideas that were done in 3 days. So there's things out there that you can use, but there's no definition as far as time, just best practices. And what I think you're referring to maybe is a best practice section, and that isn't in there, but yet a good one. So I'll add that alongside the calendar suggestion. This is what we were looking for. So keep those questions coming. We have about 5 more minutes, and y'all are the experts. Let us know where we can help you. In fact, I'm actually writing down calendar and best practices for the team guide.
There was another question while you're writing that down of like how to find other teams in your area. Your RSM is like the best person to reach out to on that. On Robot Events, there is a map feature to kind of show you the general area. But if you'd like to touch bases with more teams, your RSM could definitely connect you together with other teams. And that's an amazing resource. I'm going to give a shout out to Oregon. They do an amazing job of networking together and all the EPs and coaches, and they just amaze me every time I talk to them, because they go out of their way to make those connections and to like provide. They have teams that come over like on their build sessions and share ideas and help teach each other. So definitely that's a great way to grow your program, especially if you're new. And to provide those resources for students. So yes, contact your RSM and they'll be happy to share and connect you guys with people.
So we got a question. I was late. What is a hero bot? Great question. To reiterate though, before we move on, what Lisa said, in Robot Events, there is a feature where you can find all the teams around you based on zip code. Go for it. It's a great one. But the hero bot, I'm sorry, I even defined GDC as Game Design Committee, but I didn't define hero bot. So if you go to Vex's website, they have about 3-4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, they started a best practice for as a company of every year when the game is unveiled, shortly thereafter, they unveil a robot that would be your first iteration or first prototype for the design process that your students can build, similar to the Clawbot or any of the other posted robots. So if you go to their website and pick V5 or IQ, and then go to their, it's a little different on both, But again, you can reach out to your regional support manager. If you go to downloads, there's a drop down on downloads on the VEX website. And then there's build instructions. And under build instructions, the HeroBot is this year's robot. This year, the name of the robot's called Crunch for V5. And that Crunch robot will walk you through, again, the first prototype. And it's built like an erector set of instructions, or the ClawBot instructions. It takes your students step by step by step by step. And so whenever I say there's no excuse not to come to a competition, the HeroBot is the reason there's no excuse. If you walk up, long gone are the days of showing up with a chassis, 4 wheels, 2 motors, a brain, and a robot, or in calling that your robot. I feel so bad when teams get partnered up at a local event with one of those, because we have the HeroBot. That was the solution for every team.
And the nice thing about those too, they can all be built out of the super kits. So you don't have to necessarily buy extra parts to build those. And the VEX IQ ones actually go back a lot further than the VRC ones. And those are really, like, if you're a brand new VEX IQ organization, there's like some amazing builds just to learn like mechanics. My favorite is the T-Rex one. It does like 5 different movements with 1 motor. So they learn all about gears. So those are great, like, summer camp opportunities, just to build all those different HeroBots and compare and contrast what they all can do. So those are amazing resources.
Yes, true. And it is fun even to do summer camps with them as well. There's all those that you can use as part of your summer camp, which is a great fundraising opportunity, by the way, if you're an event partner or coach looking to fundraise. So a couple last questions. We only have 2 more minutes. There's one great one. Is there a budget section? And there isn't a budget section per se. There is a section in there. If you glance through, there's a subject of what other, on top of your kit, or aside from your kit, what other items would we purchase? And there is a section on that, but someone requested maybe a blank spreadsheet to fill in current prices of items that you'll need. I know that we have links that send you over to VEX's website, the product company website, that has links to where the kits are, but those are evergreen links because we as the nonprofit REC Foundation, we don't control the pricing. But when it comes to that Dremel tool or the storage solutions, we do have stuff in there for that. Next question, we have a very limited time to work on robots for a given period of time. Do we have mini lessons that are 10 minutes long? I don't know of any STEM labs that are as short as 10 minutes long, but your VEXcode VR does. So if you are going to go that route where you only have 10-minute chunks, which is shockingly short, you can have your programmers doing VEXcode VR challenges against each other, which is a lot of fun. You can do who can do the shortest code or who can do it in the fewest amount of lines, while your drivers are practicing driving for 10 minutes. And then the last question I have is there a team guide for RAD? And that is a fantastic question. It's in the works, but this is the REC Foundation team guide for VEX IQ Challenge, VEX Robotics Challenge, and VEXU. So the links, and then this session is all about those mobile robotics programs. The rest is going to have to come out in a different team guide. And I just got the old alarm there. Lisa, do you have any parting comments other than a farewell? I don't, a virtual high five? How do I do this? Boom, we nailed it. Okay, hey, if y'all have more comments, please put them in the chat and we will follow up. Great comments from y'all and we will update the team guide, but it is currently published. We expect to have an update in August, just alongside the game manual with all these great ideas. So thanks and enjoy the rest of the day.